Stephen, welcome to Super Lead Podcast.
Thank you, Maanda.
Lovely. So before we get into all the exciting conversations about marketing, digital advertising, etc., we like to first learn from you as an individual. And for that, we'd like, if you don't mind, just sort of giving us a sort of a journey up until now. Preferably, you start as early as possible and kind of just track us to where we are, maybe highlighting some elements where potentially you learned the most and some of the bumps on the road.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. My name is Stephen A. Newton. I was born in the U.S., born in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Very great childhood. Partially family of an immigrant family, but I went to high school, and before I went to university, I actually joined the military. So the U.S. military from 1987 to 94, and the reason was mostly to pay for university because my father. My father gave me an ultimatum that he would pay if I stayed in Philadelphia, but if I wanted to go anywhere else, I would have to pay. I wanted to go somewhere else, so I had to figure a way to pay. So I joined the military Army Reserves, served from 87 to 94 whilst I was in university. Went to University of Washington in Seattle is where I ended up studying political science and French. And then I went to law school. So I'm trained as a lawyer. Went to law school in Los Angeles, Loyola Law School. Studied law, practiced law for a bit, and then realized I didn't really like it very much, to be quite honest with you. And I ended up getting involved in what would have been called back then, if it were now, it would have been called a software as a service company, a company called Nexus. See all those books you have behind you? Nexus is a publisher, Reed Elsevier. And they published a lot of legal journals, medical journals, and they wanted to find a way to help law firms have less library space and more space for billable attorneys. So they would take all these books, put them into a platform, online platform, allow people to search and find what they're looking. So I worked with
So when you watch these old legal shows, you see the guys go there in the library and they like go through, try to kind of find some case that relates. So then back then, to disrupt that, you could almost just go and do a search like Google.
Exactly. I mean, it was these little red computers that they had on tops of desks that they would give you the actual hardware as well as connectivity to the software. And they would use something called Boolean language, where you can do searches and you can find things. And the idea was, just like you said, back in the day, you would see people looking for the law journal, treatise number, whatever it may be. And it was in so-and-so's office. So what if you had everything at your fingertips? So that was an early software as a service company, still around. Lots of lawyers, professionals use LexisNexis. But that took me out of the US. Around 98 is when I left the US. Ended up in Panama, Spain, Sweden, then in the UK. And in the UK, I pivoted. I was approached by a new company entering the market, looking for the managing director was basically looking for his right-hand person. And it's a company called Hitwise, Internet Measurement. So you think Nielsen, Media Metrics, Netflix. But we measured at the ISP level. And I became the guy's right-hand man. We built a team. He ended up leaving, going back to Australia. I took over the company, and then we sold the company to Experian, the credit agency. And that was my first exit, which was really exciting. Then took a bit of time off.
So to sell a company and then you exit, what happens?
Yeah, exactly. What happens? You go to Brazil. That's what I did. I went to Brazil and ended up in the Amazon and actually got a job offer whilst I was in the Amazon from a company called DoubleClick, another tech platform. So if you think about Google,
why still work? I mean, I'm sure when they bought you out,
it was an exit, but it
money.
wasn't enough to stop working, and I was quite young as well. I mean, it was a good exit, but yeah, definitely not. It wasn't retirement time, that's for sure.
Oh, okay.
Definitely enjoy some life, which I did, and then I got another job offer. So it was a great job offer as the managing director and vice president for the ad exchange for Africa for DoubleClick, and great, because I took that role on, came back to London, and then we sold DoubleClick to Google. So it had another exit, which was great.
Then you went back to the Amazon?
No, then I went right to Google. So when Google acquired us, I kept working. I ran Google Analytics and Checkout for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And then the year before the World Cup in South Africa, Google sent me to SA as head of Google for South Africa. That's what brought me to live back on the continent.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's been a very cool journey.
Yeah. So and we are here now at Dynamo.
Right. So after Google, I worked for Naspers as one of their CEOs. Started a consulting company with my wife and business partner. And now I am the managing director for Africa for at Dynamo by Aleph.
Right. So we'll come back to Ed Dynamo now. But like, if you just reflect on the many leadership experiences you have had, what would you say are 3, 4, 5 principles that you sort of embrace as you lead? If you go join another company, you'll probably carry those same 3, 4, 5 sort of principles. What works for you from a leadership perspective?
I would actually first start off by saying, there were a lot of positions before the leadership positions. So let me even give more detail. It's really important to never think you are what you do, or even you are what you study. So in other words, I am not a lawyer. Some people are not doctors. You are a person who has that skill set. So my point there is that the leadership positions were obtained or attained by lots of little things that led up to those things. And those things are no less important than the thing that you end up at, because even where you end up at right now might not be where you end up at. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think that's the first thing, realize that you are not what you do. I've done jobs like bricklaying. I've done jobs like waiting tables. I've done retail. I've done packing, where you stay up at night and pack cans in a box at over a midnight shift to pay for university. I've done all sorts of different things. And every one of those things has taught me something that I use in different situations. So that's the first thing. So I guess if I encapsulate that, I would say, there's something to be learned in everything you do. How you do anything is how you do everything. So, let's say, for example, today I'm a waiter, I'm a wait person, and I don't like my job, and I don't engage, I don't do it well. I don't think that you're going to be the kind of person that's going to do well at any other job.
Wow.
How you do anything is how you do everything.
That's awesome. That's a fascinating principle. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Love that one. Okay. 2 or 3 more.
Yeah. The other thing is to on that same trajectory or thought process, and it can't be a disingenuine thing. You have to genuinely respect people, people who you might see as positions that are beneath as well as above. You have to manage up and down. And in fact, you want to manage crossways. And let me explain.
Yes.
This is a huge continent of 1.8 billion people. However, the role that I have right now is mostly because there were two people. There was a gentleman who was running at Dynamo before me, who I met whilst I was at Google, which is over 13 years ago. There's a gentleman who was my colleague at DoubleClick, which is over 20 years ago. These two independent people were part of Ad Dynamo, or our parent company, who recommended me for the role separately. And the reason why I bring that up is to say, you know, again, don't think what you do is who you are. Treat people with respect, whether it's the person bringing you coffee or the person that you report to, because the world is funny and small and incestuous. Well, you should do it just because. But if you want to even think about the strategy, you never know who is going to be where and what they may be able to do for you when you need it. So just don't think of people, colleagues, as subordinates or superiors. Think of them as people and treat them nicely.
Sure. Oh, that's good. That's very good. Love it. Keep going. These are good. These are good. Let's do two more, please.
Well, I'll give you at least one more. And I know people have heard this before, but you know, like we all need money. There's no question about it. We need money to live, to survive. But if you're lucky enough to find the thing that actually makes you feel invigorated, you know, and that's the thing you do. You will make money. And I guess if you're starting off in your career, one of the things that I would suggest is like show up, volunteer. You know, like you know when people say things like, "Hey, I need somebody to take on this new project," and you see people. Some people do this right away, and sometimes you're the only one standing there in the front, right? Be that person. Be that person. Be curious about solving problems, because you might not get it right, but you're going to learn something. And the person who asks you to do that task is going to respect the fact that you gave it a go. You know, don't worry that you're going to get it wrong. Like, just worry, think to yourself, there's something in this problem that I can learn, and I might become of value. Those are the people that kind of stand out, if that makes sense to me. If that makes sense to you, sorry. You know, when there's a problem to be solved, have a curious mind to solve the problem. People will gravitate towards you.
Stunning. So you're touching on something here that I get asked often, which is, hey, and maybe also reflected in your career. You studied political science, you study law, you sort of, you know, work in different industries. How do I eventually land at that thing that I do that invigorates me, as you say? How do I, perhaps, if I was to think of it broadly, how can I figure out what my purpose is and the work that's aligned to me?
Yeah, I think some people are born with it. Some people, you know, they'll tell you from day one, this is what I wanted to do. I don't think that's most. I don't think that's most people, but some people are born to do something, and God bless them. Other people, I think you have to be curious. You have to be willing to try lots of things to figure out what you like. And then you might even find that, okay, well, there are different things that I like, but then you have a thought, a reflection of what pulls those things together. You know, I personally like to build things, and I like to create spaces where I look at the world in like a platform. Here's a thing, here's a buyer, a receiver, and there's something in the middle. I want to get this thing to that individual or that group, that company. What's the best way to do it? To find all the friction in the middle, reduce the friction, increase the efficiencies. So I look at things like, this is the problem area, that box, that transfer box. How do I reduce frictions? How do I increase efficiency? Now, for me, that's the space that I can apply to anything I do. And when you think about it, you can go into you can be a chef, go into a kitchen and go, the flow here is not working. If we move this over here, if we do this, I'm reducing friction, I'm increasing efficiency. I can go into a business and say sales aren't working. If we do this, so in my mind, that's the glue that ties things together for me. And that comes from doing lots of things, but realizing that in all the things I was doing, that's what I was doing. Right.
That's profound. So I like this idea of doing lots and lots of things, but it seems there's some time of reflection here and kind of trying to harmonize all the many activities. What does that look like until you say, hey, I exist in this box where I reduce friction and increase effectiveness?
I think that looks like trial and error, like different. Not everyone's the same. You'll have your personality. You'll have the things that you really enjoy. Some people don't like being in front of people. Some people like being behind the scenes. And in that situation where you're trying new things, you might go, I'm actually realizing in reflection, I don't like to talk to people. There's some people who are like that. I like to solve problems, but I don't like to talk to people. I used to work with a lot of developers. And I realized for a good portion of them, I couldn't let everyone speak with them because they don't want to talk. I'm saying generally speaking.
Yes.
So they were best, and some creatives I've worked with are that way. They don't want to talk to everyone. They don't want to talk to maybe, most people. There are people they're happy to speak to. And if you give them that space, and you understand how to communicate with them, they blossom. So it's trial and error. Right? You're going to find out, this is what I like in all the things I do. This is the part I don't like in all the things that I do. Now, if you're lucky, you can do exactly what you like. Most of us aren't that lucky, right? You have to do some things you don't like as well. But at least you're getting closer to your happy space, your productive space, and you can manage around the things that you don't like more so once you know how you operate. So I think Maanda, it's trial and error, but it's also sitting back and thinking about it like a project.
Okay, like a project. How?
In the sense of, you're not just doing random things for a random reason, right? You're doing things to get to a point. I'm trying to find out what I'm best at or what I thoroughly enjoy. So if you just do things and you don't reflect, then you're just doing things, right? The question you asked is, how do you get to that point? And in my mind, that's like a project. That's okay. This worked, this didn't work, let's move this way. Okay, that didn't work either, let's go here. And then you find your space.
Lovely. And I sense that there's also this element of acceptance. When you accept that I would love to be, that person on stage or, who's singing or doing stuff. But hey, I don't enjoy the crowd or something like that. And then you sort of nudge and do trial and errors until you land there. Would you agree that there's an element of acceptance?
There's an element of acceptance. My philosophy is, do things that scare you because that's how you grow. So let's just say, I think theoretically, could I be a physicist? Theoretically, I could be if that's what I really doubled down on and I tried to study. But it's not my natural, not what I naturally am attracted to, right? But I enjoy pushing myself to things that make me uncomfortable because I feel two things. It helps me grow. It helps my knowledge base, like to have a understanding, at least a grasp of something outside of what I'm comfortable with. That's going to help in something else. It's going to help in relatability. It's going to help in who knows when that information. In fact, the way I envision it, Does your father or do you, do anyone in your family, maybe even your mother, have a tool chest? Like, this is the person you go to when you need any tool.
Yes, 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 yes.
Someone like that.
Yeah.
Who is that person?
It was my uncle largely,
Okay.
He had everything.
Whatever you could think of, you go there and you have it, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you think he bought them all at one time?
No.
No.
Oh, that's a good question. No, yeah.
Over time, he accumulated this tool arsenal, right?
Yeah.
Now, I need a lathe or I need a drill that does this, and uncle's gonna have it.
Of course.
Think of your skill set the same way. Like you want to develop this arsenal of tools, and you never know. And your uncle, you might say to him, "Why do you have this thing sitting up there catching dust? You never use it. Get rid of it." And he goes, one day, one day I'm gonna need it. And the funny thing is, when he needs it, it's you who ask him. You know that thing? Yes, you need it, right?
Yeah.
Think of your life and the experiences and the tools you are gathering are things that you can say, right, this might not come in handy right now, but when the opportunity comes up, I have a tool that I can use for this. Why? Because I sat and spoke with that guy who's a physicist and learned something that I never thought I would ever use ever again. But actually, I will.
Yeah, right. So just to wrap up on this theme we're on, you've worked in multiple cultures. I just wonder how sort of you built your cultural intelligence to navigate in these just multiple environments. What do you do to sort of navigate these cultures? Because some people might be great in one culture, and then they show up in another culture, and then things don't work as well. How did you build that cultural intelligence, if it were?
I think nothing beats travel. I mean, nothing beats going places and spending time learning about different cultures, different people. But you also have to travel with the right mindset of acceptance, of learning. I don't know everything, and I know I don't know everything. And the way I do something here might be different than the way you do something there. All those things, just being open and then listening. But I think also at the end of the day, Amanda, we're really all people, and we really all want the same things. Like there's different filters that we use for that. And in that situation, I tend not to look so much with a microscope, but kind of like, when you kind of blur your vision a bit, in the sense of, I'm not looking at all the fine details, but I'm looking at the generalities. And generally speaking, I don't care what culture you're from. If I'm rude, you're going to remember I'm rude. If I make you feel nice, you're going to remember that I made you feel nice. I don't care where you're from in the world, right? That's kind of universal, right? If I listen and I respect you, you're going to remember that. If I don't, you're going to remember that as well. So there's some things that are, I feel universal, and it's also how you travel. So in other words, I never go somewhere and think to myself, oh my God, why doesn't this person speak English? I go places and I speak French and some Spanish and Portuguese, but when I go to different countries and that country speaks a language that I'm comfortable with, that's not their native tongue, I'm actually like, wow, thank you. I appreciate that you can speak my language. I mean, I'm in your country and you're speaking the language that it's from the country I grew up in. Thank you for that. I'm going to try to learn something about your language as well, if I can, because that's just respectful, right?
Wow. That's good, Jay. That's very good. So you appreciate. It's not like, why aren't they speaking English if you do it? But you appreciate that they actually are speaking the language that I'm comfortable with.
I'm in a different sovereign country with their own culture and own language or languages. And yes, why should I expect you to? You know, it's great that you do. And people might say this is the business language, but I mean, I'm talking on a personal level. You took the time out to understand something about where I'm from. Thank you.
Sure. Wow. 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 Love that. Love that. So transitioning a little bit. So tell me more about Dynamo. For some of us who might not know what Dynamo does and why and for who.
Great, great. Dynamo is a affiliate company of a parent company called Aleph. I'm going to talk about Aleph because Aleph, the different companies under Aleph, we all do the same thing. So we work in mostly emerging markets, and we make it easier for our partners to do business in those markets. The partners we work with are mostly social media platforms, about 35 of them. Google, Meta, Snapchat, Spotify, Twitter, Uber. I mean, we help these companies in countries as their exclusive partner. So, for example, we represent Meta in Nigeria. If you are a client of Meta in Nigeria, you are working with us. Now, why would Meta do that? Number one, we have worked with them in many different countries. Number two, we help reduce friction. Maybe Meta doesn't want to accept Naira. We will go locally, accept Naira, and pay Meta in their preferred currency. We will make sure we train the clients, both direct and agencies, on Meta's policies to make sure they stay compliant. We become their on-the-ground presence in about 120 countries. Now, because of that, we are also a remittance company because we remit billions of dollars around the world from countries where, you know, it might be a little more tricky to get money in and out of, to the US and to Europe. So we, all across that value chain, we number one, help those partners manage their clients and their agencies in those territories, collect payments, remit payments, train, etc. And I run the Sub-Saharan Africa division.
Okay, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. So now, let's say I'm on this other side. I'm in corporate. You know, I'm thinking about marketing, and I'm thinking about all the digital partners that you have. Why should I? Perhaps it's an obvious one, but why should I stop pouring dollars on the, you know, above the line billboards and TVs and all the traditional media, and perhaps push some of that money more towards your direction?
I think, you know, it's interesting, being in this space for over 20 years, that was a question that was a question before. I don't think it's even a question now, but the subtlety of what you said is moving. So in various parts of the world, above the line, traditional advertising is still the dominant factor. But as you know, think about before M-Pesa, how many Africans have bank accounts or were able to transact without cash. And if you think about how quickly that changed, right? So, you know, from the time where everybody, I remember walking around West Africa with bags of money, you know, seriously, bags of money to go shopping. And now, for the most part, people don't do it. You have a way just to send money electronically. So my point is, the tipping point is when it gets to that tipping point, it tips very quickly. I see. Just like that money situation, there was a time where people had cash. Now most people don't walk around with cash like that. There's some, but with the digital advertising, the same. As more and more people have access to internet-enabled devices, as data prices start to become more affordable, as you have more and more locally relevant content, as you have more and more ubiquitous payment mechanisms, the shift from TV, from print, from radio is moving towards digital quite rapidly. So there aren't very many big companies that do not use digital platforms as well.
100%.
When will it change? It's changing more and more. So it's the right space to be in.
So 100%. In some industries, they will sort of treat the digital budget for marketing more for brand building, for engagement, but less so for closing. For closing, they will typically go to some of the traditional sort of channels, if it were. Are we there now where in the noise of some of the many just websites and everything happening, are we at the place where these are channels to actually close and make money?
We're way there. I mean, the actuality, the better place for acquisition is online. Think about it. I put a billboard up. I put a TV commercial up. How do I know that you saw my billboard when you came into my shop? How do I know that you are a customer from the TV commercial that I paid for, or the magazine article that I put in? Because of the way that the digital space works, if you go to website A and you saw my ad, and if I'm attributing correctly, and then you go to website B, no ad, but C, you see my ad, and then you come to my my junior partner likes to keep bugging me.
No worries.
And then you come to close the door behind you, son. Then you come to my website and you actually complete the order there. Because it's electronic, I can see that you engaged with the ad first, that you didn't see it there. So it actually is the most precise way to measure a closing. Now that's if you have something to close online. If I'm Coca-Cola, for example, it's hard for me to show that you bought this can of Coke because you saw it online. However, it's not impossible because you have things where I can do a voucher that I can go take in. So the most measurable way to advertise is digital advertising. Above the line advertising is more about reach and frequency. Reach. How many people saw it? Excuse me, frequency. How many times did they see it? It's really not the place where you close the engagement.
Okay, I'm with you. So now let's take it to small, medium-sized businesses. I imagine this is probably the best place to go, right? Because I probably don't have the budget for the billboards and the expensive TV ads. What must I do as a medium-sized business to kind of get the best out of digital advertising?
I think that's a good question. The number one, you have to take some time. And this is the hard thing for lots of SMBs. I'm busy running my business, so even though I would like to, let's take someone who's maybe not digitally savvy. I'd like to have an Instagram or WhatsApp. Number one, I'm afraid because I don't know how to do it. Number two, I'm busy being busy. I can't take the time. So there's this space where organizations, and we have a platform, an SMB platform that, we work with big companies who work with SMBs. So it could be in South Africa, someone like Yoko. If Yoko is coming to your business to give you a POS, can we also offer you a website, or at least a site, a digital platform? Can we offer you some easy, targeting features so that you can advertise all the way through delivery? So no matter what, you have to take a bit of time, but to understand that your business can potentially scale way beyond where it is right now because of the digital space. right? More and more companies are in the space where they're offering tools to those SMBs. And you made a great point, Manda, that is the target audience. That's when you look across this continent, most businesses are small to medium-sized family or individually owned enterprises.
Yeah. And how could a Dynamo specifically help us in the medium-sized business space?
So as I said, we have an SMB platform. We also have a platform called Connect Ads. That SMB platform is, again, the idea is you work with organizations that SMBs work with. So in other words, like I said, you're going to think about, again, let's say 5 years ago. Let's say 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You're from South Africa, correct?
100%. Yeah.
Okay. So do you remember when your spaza shop did not have a POS? Are you old enough to remember when?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But now they have a POS. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a step, moving from cash to here is some technology. And that POS, if it's a good POS, not only accepts money for them, but does inventory. It might give them information about, stock, what's missing, so you're getting data from that, right? Now, a company like that, we would work with and say, right, let's also offer that client of yours the ability to represent themselves online. Let's give them the ability to market themselves. So we have a platform, an SMB platform, and let's give them the ability to market themselves. How much do you want to spend? I want to spend 600 Rand. Okay. And what do you want to do? I want to get people to click on this button and buy this. Maybe we connect these 3 platforms that are our partners that are very good at that particular outcome. So what we're doing is we are making it easier for SMBs to have the same type of a service that a large organization would have, but it's low touch, high value.
Wow. So we don't just need to just have a website and a social media page. You could essentially go to the likes of yourselves, and then you can help me plug in and kind of reach all through your partners, reach as many people as possible. It's not just about me having a social media page.
Right. Well, I think ultimately you have to have somewhere to put those individuals, but we're saying we create tools to help do that for you. Because again, a 50-year-old shop owner might not have the patience or the time to do that. And they might not know someone younger who can do it for them. We're trying to create tools that allow you to do this at scale, but at ease.
Lovely. Okay, so hopefully we'll put some of the links on the show notes for all the SMEs listening to us to access the platform. Right, you're also the chairperson of the Illuminate Africa Group. What is that about?
Correct. That is my consulting company that I run along with my wife. And what we have kind of done is we lived in lots of different countries, understand the West, understand Africa. We help businesses from the West enter into the African continent. And we call it the Illuminate Africa Group because we've been called the dark continent in the past. And the idea is to shed light. It's not that the continent is a dark continent, it's that people don't know about the continent. So we're shedding light, we're illuminating Africa, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Lovely, love that. So typically, what are some of the maybe top 3 or 4 things that companies wanting to enter some of the African countries tend to get wrong?
So we tend to focus mostly on digital platforms, but I mean, the thing is that we're rich in many things as a continent. One of the things that is kind of top of mind right now is that this is the home of the world's youngest population and youngest growing population. So, we're at about 1.8 billion now. Some people say, experts say we'll get to 3.6 billion. Some people say 2.5. whatever number we get to by 2050, we are slated to be the continent with the largest percentage of young eligible working people. So you think about any platform that that targets people between the ages of 18 and 40, you're missing out if you're not in Africa. If you are a FMCG, a fast moving consumer's good, or any type of consumer product, how can you not be in Africa? I mean, you know, it's quite exciting. I mean, you land. I always give a visual of the United States of, you know, when you look at the East Coast from New York to Chicago, and you draw a line down. That's about half of the U.S. And you paint that one half black, and that's Nigeria alone, out of 54 countries. So the scale. There's no question. Everyone in the know knows that this is where the opportunities are.
And so and yet maybe the rate of investment into the continent, it's not that fast. I think people understand the opportunity, but yet we're not seeing companies pouring in, pushing each other out, because there's just so many companies either coming in or even being started here. What do you think that is?
I don't know that that's accurate, in the sense of, okay, there's lots of companies being started here, right?
Okay, but coming in
from the ground up, there's many companies based. I mean, think about, again, I'll use Nigeria again, in the sense of, you don't meet anyone there who's just working a job. They have this thing on the side, they have that business on the side, they have, and very entrepreneurial, in the sense of there's lots of businesses. Now, when you're saying there's not money coming in, there's a lot of money coming in to certain types of things, infrastructure. So think about what's being built. Right. We're very fortunate in Southern Africa to have the infrastructure that we have, right? When you go to the rest of Africa, it's not necessarily the same thing. Therefore, digitally, you can build quite easy. I can build some things digitally and not have to worry about the road itself, right? Okay. But now, if I'm going to go to full cycle and try to bring the continent into line with the rest of the world, I've got to also build infrastructure. So you see people doing infrastructure deals, roads, bridges, power, electricity. Step by step, you'll start to see the money now go into, okay, if the infrastructure is built, now what can I lay on top of that infrastructure? What are the businesses? So just give it some time, but it's a building process.
Lovely. No. So I love that. And maybe a word or two as we draw to a conclusion for entrepreneurs, for startup companies. How can they accelerate their growth, so we can get a lot more companies breaking out of the hustle space to more sustainable companies that employ as many of us as possible?
Number one, be curious. Number one. Number two, go to where the money is sometimes. Do your business here, but it's good to have a presence in London. It's good to have a presence in New York, California. Let people know who you are, right? Let them know who you are, what you're doing. Don't expect they're always going to come here. A lot of people don't want to come here, right? And in fact, they want to know that where I am, you're going to be there as well. So, do your rounds when you're looking for funding in those markets. Also, I would say, again, that curiosity. When things don't work, be flexible, be agile. Most business owners are. They'll pivot quickly. But also, think about the problem that you're trying to solve. I always start with, what is that problem that I'm trying to solve? And it's a very specific problem. because I can focus in on that. And then what do you know? Other people may come along for that. I'll give you some examples. I took a course in design, and it talks about purposeful design. So do you have a suitcase that has wheels on it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's nice. You go around the airport, you move in and out. The original design was originally designed just for pilots and for flight attendants to help them get from one plane to the other quicker.
Yeah.
Right? So whoever designed that wasn't thinking about you or I. They were thinking about solving a very particular problem for pilots and for flight attendants, right? And what do you know? Those things took off, but other people came on board as well. So like really focus your what you're not going to solve everybody's problem. But if you hyper focus on solving a select problem, more than likely the crowds will figure out how to use that if it's good.
Sure. No, love that. Love that. Maybe the one last question. We asked our guests these last two questions. One is if you can give our listeners a challenge after listening to us. Hey, here's the one challenge I would like to put in front of you. Maybe you could perhaps start doing this from this week on, etc. And the second question is to recommend a book from your long list of books there. Either for me to add one book on the bookshelf and and potentially for our listeners to go read and be empowered.
So I would say the first thing to do is think about what I said earlier. You know, how you do anything is how you do everything. Like try to find, if not joy, purpose in what you're doing. You know, even in a hard task, there's a purpose. There's some lesson to be learned. So try to find that, number one. As a book, one of my favorite books is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yes.
That's a classic. And I think it's one that you can always go back to, and no matter what you do, no matter what your space is, basic life principles. That Dale Carnegie book, I actually took the course, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's like a 3-month-long course. It really helped me in everything that I do, to be quite honest. So I would recommend that.
No, and I can tell even through the interview that you embody that, even in just this one, this sort of less than an hour of conversation, you truly embody that. It's not just an interesting book that you may have read. No, thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate, Maanda, I really appreciate you taking the time out to speak with me, and I wish you all the luck, and
lovely.
We can stay in contact.
Lovely. No, thanks a lot. Thanks for those insights. I'm challenged as well, personally, after this conversation.